Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Free Roam podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about video games with the people who make them in an effort to better explore the whole world of the industry. My name's Corey and I go by Fixer online. In this episode, I'm flying solo to talk about some of the recent betas that have come out. It's really been beta season these past few months. We had the Halo Infinite flights, the Call of Duty Vanguard beta, the Battlefield beta, and also a couple of New World betas sprinkled in there over the summer. And I wanted to talk a little bit about all of them and also just the state of betas in general. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's jump into the first one I want to talk about, which is Halo Infinite. So those of you who have listened to the past few podcasts may have noticed I'm really excited for Halo Infinite. I've brought it up multiple times on my YouTube channel and here in the podcast. And this second Halo Infinite flight, which showcased Big Team Battle, has sent my hype even higher than it was before. They introduced their new Big Team Battle mode, which, for those unaware, in games like Halo 3 and Halo Reach, there was a mode called Big Team Battle. I believe it was either 8v8 or 12v12, I can't quite remember, but it focused on having bigger teams than your normal 4v4 and throw in as many vehicles as you can on really big maps, and it resulted in these really crazy, intense battles with tons of players that were just super fun, lots of vehicles. The main reason that it worked so well for Halo is because Halo is all about that physics sandbox that they've created. You know, how does a rocket hitting a warthog and send it flipping into the air and crashing into a Banshee flying above, you know, how that all interacts on a moment-to-moment gameplay level is really, really great. It's always been done well in Halo, and it was once again done well in Infinite. We only got to play on one Big Team Battle map, and only got to play 2 of the Big Team Battle modes, but it was a complete blast. I had my friend Ben, who goes by Stegnersaurus on Twitter. He's a writer as well. He hasn't played Halo since, I think he said, a couple matches of Halo 2 at a friend's birthday party one time, and he was able to jump right in, and after a couple matches, he was having a blast with me. And I was really excited for that because I really want this game to be something that me and my friends all play together, you know, kind of getting the band back together on Halo. Now, there are still some concerns that came from this beta. They really didn't change the way the XP system works, which is a concern that a lot of Halo fans have right now regarding the game. As you may know, they're switching entirely to a Battle Pass or Season Pass system. And on the one hand, they're doing it really well and pro-consumer in that once you buy a Battle Pass, you can always use it. There's no fear of missing out. And you can, let's say you don't buy the game or don't play the game for a few years, you'll have access to all of those old seasons and seasonal content, and you can choose to purchase what you want at that time. So there's no fear of missing out. However, because of this system, they have gotten rid of per match XP and medal bonuses and stuff like that. The only way to level up, and there is no like traditional character level or player level, as you might see in Call of Duty or even Halo 3 and Halo Reach for that matter. There is no XP whenever you play a match or do well in a match. You only get Battle Pass experience from completing challenges. And they've reassured us that you'll always be earning XP because there will always be at least a minimal amount of XP given for completing a match to level up your Battle Pass, which is good. At least that means you won't run out of things to do. However, a lot of people, myself included, are pretty concerned that this is going to make the game feel a little stale and kind of unrewarding. So for example, I would rather see a system where there is a Battle Pass rank, obviously, but there's also a player rank, just to show easily how much someone has played. And, you know, rather than give just 100 XP flat for winning a match or for playing a match, I'd like to be able to see that swing back and forth, maybe between like 80 XP for a loss and maybe a match where you didn't do very well, all the way up to maybe 150 XP for a match where you did really well and you won and you dropped a killing frenzy, which is a 10 kill streak, and maybe that killing frenzy gives you that extra 50 points of battle pass experience. So something like that where in the end it will still even out to earning about 100 XP per match towards your battle pass, but at least it feels like your in-game performance means something, which currently with this current system, there doesn't really seem to be anything like that. However, they've said that they're hearing this feedback and they're going to look into having some kind of more traditional XP system post-launch. I'm not super convinced that it's going to turn out that way, and it's definitely not a short-term change. It's going to be more of a long-term change. But overall, I don't think it's going to affect my experience with the game going into it. There's been a bunch more leaks since that beta came out. Lots more weapons and equipment that weren't shown in the tests is going to be in the final release. So there's going to be a lot of variety in this game when it releases. And we're only a couple months away, and I'm pretty excited. Now let's move on to New World. I played in the first open beta for New World that you had to have pre-order access for. I was given a gift. I was given the game as a gift via Steam, so thanks Ryan again for that. Appreciate it. Really enjoying the game, by the way. There isn't really too much to talk about. Not much really changed from the beta to the full release of New World, which I am greatly enjoying. It's definitely been the only MMO I've really had a lot of kind of love for. It's very hard for me to get sucked into MMOs. But anyway, they mostly just used the beta for tweaking weapon balancing, as far as I know, and maybe some economy stuff, which I think is, to be expected from a beta. You really can't expect sweeping gameplay design changes from a beta, and we're going to get into that when we get to the Battlefield beta. But yeah, overall, New World is off to a great start. Next up, Vanguard. I played the Vanguard beta as well. I got a code unexpectedly. I was sort of expecting to just completely pass the Vanguard beta. I really am feeling little to no hype for Call of Duty Vanguard. However, apparently they really needed people to play this thing because they were dropping thousands of codes for free on Twitter from all kinds of influencer accounts. I think I got mine from like the Dexerto.com account or Modern Warzone Twitter account or something like that. Literally hundreds of beta codes. I have a full video breakdown of the Vanguard beta on my YouTube channel. You could check that out. Look me up under Fixer on YouTube. And man, I really have mixed feelings on this. I went into it wanting to hate it, okay? I did not like Modern Warfare 19. I do not like Warzone. Call of Duty Cold War feels like the redheaded stepchild of the entire franchise. It feels like it was so rushed and so not what Treyarch really wanted to do, or rather Sledgehammer, considering they were the first ones working on it. So I really had no hype going into Vanguard. The only saving grace of Vanguard, in my experience, or in my original opinion, was that it was going to be on the newer engine, which worked so well for Modern Warfare. I went into it and was actually pleasantly surprised by quite a few things. There were definitely a lot of bugs that annoyed the crap out of me, and a lot of design decisions that I don't really love. For example, the weapons are extremely unruly, hard to control, and have so much muzzle flash that I feel like they're pushing you to want to buy a bundle for almost every gun in the game, because every gun in the game feels unusable without attachments. I also think the sound is really, really bad. There were people shooting at me right next to me that I couldn't hear. And, that's something that I think you can chalk up to being a beta issue, but it's something that may or may not be fixable before launch. I mean, sound is very complicated in video games. I hope it will get at least a little bit better. But the thing that kind of pulled me out of my, skepticism for the game is just how authentic most of it looked. Besides the corny reflex sights that obviously they had to put in just because it's what the community would have wanted. Shooting an MG42 from a window overlooking like a center lane on a 3-lane map, it's just really, really fun. These guns sound great when you can hear them, and they feel really good to shoot whenever you have at least a couple attachments on them. I also really liked the maps. They were a little bit cluttered and visibility isn't great, which I'm always harping on Call of Duty for visibility issues. I really think they need to focus on visibility more. But putting the visibility aside, I think some of the maps are actually really interesting. They aren't your traditional like Treyarch style 3-lane maps, but they also aren't the complete like sit in a corner and hide safe space maps that Modern Warfare 19 was kind of made fun of for. Like they literally designed their maps with what they called safe spaces, which of course is going to get people riled up just in the name convention alone. But these maps actually seemed pretty good to me. I was getting my butt kicked on most of them, but I had a couple moments where I was able to play it the way that I could tell the map was designed to be played, which is to kind of hold a position and control positions rather than run and gun. Definitely can't run and gun with a lot of those weapons straight out of the gate. Probably have to unlock attachments for that. But playing more conservatively was actually very fun. And I was not expecting that for me because that's not how I typically play Call of Duty games. So still not super hyped for Vanguard. I don't think it should be a $60 game. It really feels like we need to just switch Call of Duty to free-to-play model at this point. But better than I expected. I'll put it that way. Next up, last but not least, this is going to be a bit of a shorter podcast, I think, the Battlefield 2042 beta. So this is the only beta on the list in the battle of the betas that I did not play myself. So, take that as you will. It's looking rough, guys. It's looking really rough. After the beta concluded, some information came out from leakers on Twitter that Battlefield 2042 was originally supposed to be only a battle royale experience, and they kind of decided partway through development that it needed to be, or I guess could be, a more traditional game, a more traditional Battlefield game, that is. And you can really tell from just the way that the game plays that they didn't have traditional Battlefield gameplay in mind for it. So the biggest concern that I have, and one of the ones that a majority of the reviewers and even my friends who have played the game have, is they completely removed the traditional Battlefield class system and replaced it with what they call specialists, which are basically like operators or like your Rainbow Six Siege characters, where every specialist has like a unique kit or a unique gadget, rather than gadgets being locked into certain classes. They're now locked behind specialists. And this would have made a bit more sense in a battle royale mode where you have solo, duo, quad play, but it does not make sense in a fully team-based system. And it's because they completely removed a lot of those team play elements by getting rid of the traditional classes. From the reviews that I've seen, it's impossible to tell if someone is running an ammo pack or a med pack because the game just doesn't show you. Like every other Battlefield game has had, squads-based data on the UI like baked into it. And this game doesn't have that anymore. So a lot of the reviewers were saying, no one's reviving, no one's dropping ammo, everyone's just running around with a grappling hook playing it like Apex Legends because the game doesn't incentivize it anymore. It really incentivizes a solo experience. And, to me, that's one of the biggest draws of Battlefield, loading into a game and being that sniper that sits back with a sniper rifle and a spotting scope and picks off targets while the rest of your squad moves in to plant a bomb or capture a control point. And this game just doesn't have it from what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing in this gameplay. And unfortunately, the rest of the game is kind of dialed back in that way as well. I'm hearing less destruction, maps that feel way too big and kind of boring, like the amount of players on the map can't fill out the map, which kind of hints back to that idea that the maps were originally designed with Battle Royale in mind. In a game like Battlefield 3 Rush Mode or Bad Company Rush Mode, you have tons of players that are funneled in a certain direction, and it makes the game very focused. That isn't the case in this mode, at least not in Conquest. Another complaint I heard is that the attachment system doesn't really benefit the game at all. So if you watched the Battlefield 2042 trailer, you may have seen that they were highlighting this new feature where you can change the attachments on your gun at any time in match. My friends that played the game let me know that they didn't like it because it just seemed boring to have access to everything from the start, and a lot of the attachments didn't feel useful. But on top of that, it completely takes out the need to kind of strategize with your squad and come up with roles. Because if the guy with the sniper rifle can just flip a switch to turn his scope into a red dot sight whenever he enters a building, what's the point in carrying a sidearm? Or even more strategically, why would a sniper be entering a close quarters combat situation? That should be left to the rest of his team, or the teammate that is running a shotgun should go ahead first. And by changing up how the attachments work, they've completely removed that aspect of strategy. And I think that's what it really comes down to. All of these changes remove so much of the strategy in replacement for just kind of that traditional, almost Call of Duty style, like solo gameplay loop. Like, oh, you don't need your teammates to knock over that building for you because you can just grapple swing to the top of it. Or you don't need your teammates to snipe for you as you're, crossing the street. You could just grapple across the street or lay down a turret or a robot dog to cover you while you cross the street. The player has the power to do everything themselves rather than the player only having a specialty that makes them feel special. In their attempt to make everyone feel special with these super-powered gadgets, I think they are going to do the opposite and make no one feel special. No one feels important to the overall team. And finally, with my thoughts of these betas out of the way, I want to talk about one final thing, which is something that I've seen pop up in the discourse online, on Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, about all of these betas as they've come out, which is what is the purpose of a multiplayer beta and what can actually be changed after the beta is over. I think a lot of people have a misconception on what betas can actually do for the game. In a best case scenario, a public beta is a time for the marketing team to spin up hype and sell pre-orders if they're doing pre-order only access. And it's for the developers to maybe stress test some servers and maybe have time to tweak some weapon balance statistics before the full release of the game so that no gun enters completely broken in case they missed that during their own balance passes. What cannot be changed from a beta is major gameplay design flaws. Maps cannot be overhauled after a beta 3 weeks before launch. Gameplay details such as the removal of classes from Battlefield cannot be changed in 3 weeks before launch after the beta. So many people online will defend their favorite game by saying, it's just a beta, wait for the full release. My dudes, only so much can be changed before release, especially when release is a month away. They can change weapon balancing, but they cannot add team play and squads back to Battlefield. Well, okay, that rant is off my chest. I might make a full video on YouTube talking about betas. Feel free to check it out. I just wanted to make sure I got another podcast out to you guys. Thank you all so much for subscribing to this thing. It really means a lot to me. I'm trying really hard to be consistent. I know I'm about, I think, a week or two late on this episode. It's been a really busy and chaotic time for me and my fiance, but I'm happy to just keep posting them whenever I have the chance. But just know that you can expect to see content on my Twitter at Fixer_95 and on my YouTube, which is just Fixer. Thank you guys very much for listening. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, or just send me a message on Twitter and let me know what you think. If you know someone who would like to be a guest on the podcast, especially a content creator or a video game developer, I would love to talk to them and interview them. So feel free to hit me up for that as well. Thank you guys so much for listening. Peace out.